That is the drum roll of high coverage SPF, ladies and gentlemen. I am so excited. Hi, welcome back. Hope you're having a great week. I'm excited because a very generous viewer from the UK sent me the new Roche Posay Anthelios 50 Plus Shaka Fluid. I hope I'm saying that right. Many of you have asked me to review this. It is a newer sunscreen in the European market from Roche Posay, and I believe it's also sold in other countries outside of Europe. It's just not in the American market. So comment below on if this bad boy is in your area yet. I know many of you wanted me to review it. And I got it last week from this wonderful viewer. Thank you so much, by the way. So I've tried it out numerous times and I've worn it under various conditions. So I can tell you a little bit about how it wears and how it performs throughout the day. But first up, I will tell you why this is great in terms of the filters. It contains great filters for really broad spectrum coverage into UVA 1 and UVA 2. It includes bimetrizinol, avobenzone, and Mexeril XL. So those filters really give good coverage into UVA 1 and UVA 2. And a little bit of UVB. And then in addition, for just UVB, this also has ethyl salicylate and uvenyl T150. So those hit UVB. And side note, when you are looking at the ingredients, they're not going to list the names like avobenzone, tinosorb. They're going to list out, and it's kind of painful, they're going to list out the chemical names. And so you have to copy paste that into Google and find out what the trade name is so that you kind of know what the active ingredient is. The chemical names are really long and a mouthful. And it's hard to keep them all straight, to be honest with you. For example, avobenzone is actually butyl methoxy dibenzoyl methane. So, you know, you have to do a little bit of diligence if you're looking for specific filters to make sure that you're not just skimming over the ingredient list, because they're not going to name them by these kind of trade names. They're going to go by the chemical name. But anyways, those are fantastic filters. Of those, in the States, we don't have Mexeril XL. We don't have bimetrizinol, and we do have avobenzone, but we're kind of stuck with avobenzone for UVA. Avobenzone by itself is not particularly stable and degrades upon exposure to UV light, so we lose the UVA coverage from our sunscreens more readily than you would this. This has other filters in it that hit UVA really well, and those other filters also stabilize the avobenzone that is in this. So it just allows the manufacturers to really, it gives them more tools to make better sunscreens, not only in terms of the coverage, but also in terms of the aesthetic, the feel. In other words, this particular sunscreen, in contrast to many of its American counterparts, as far as just how it feels and how it goes on the skin, it's not greasy, it's not oily, it doesn't pill up, it lies down on the skin very nicely. This particular sunscreen is a liquid vehicle and therefore has more of a matte finish to it. And so I think that's what many of you are seeking who wear makeup, who have oily skin, and it just, you know, dries on the skin. It makes a nice primer, I would say, for makeup, probably, although you guys know I don't really wear makeup. You do still need to reapply this every 2 hours while you're outside, because you invariably rub some of it off and lose that high protection in those areas. And sunscreen, just no matter how it's formulated, it's not perfect. It's not going to stay on 100%. So you do need to reapply it to have ongoing protection. But in between applications, unlike the American counterparts, you're not losing the UVA coverage due to a degrading filter. So that is a nice feature of non-American sunscreens. You just get better broad spectrum coverage. Their standards of evaluating sunscreens in Europe are a lot stricter than they are here in the States, particularly in terms of UVA. Here we have a pass-fail system for UVA protection. They use different assays than we use here. The assay, the test for UVA protection, is not agreed upon which is the best test, and every country uses kind of a different test and a different methodology. So sometimes you all will ask me, like, can I compare the UVA protection of a zinc sunscreen sold in America to a chemical sunscreen sold in Europe? And I really can't, honestly. Like, that is not, they're just not something that we can compare at this point. They don't use the same evaluation evaluation, but knowing how good coverage those filters are in those sunscreens, I have a lot of confidence in the sunscreens sold in the European market. They are fantastic. But for people who have photosensitive skin diseases like polymorphous light eruption, lupus, melasma, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, I mean, there are all these other things out there that we need protection from. We need our sunscreens to help protect our skin from. And those sold in Europe, those sold in Asia, outside of the States in general, they're just better at doing that. The chemical sunscreens sold in other countries, they have more filters at their disposal to play with, to mix and match, to come up with different formulations. And the new Shaka Fluid is one such example of that. As best I can tell, the main difference between the new Shaka Fluid and the older Anthelios XL SPF 50 is they have removed, the older formulation had octocrylene in it, and this newer Shaka formula does not have octocrylene in it. It has ethyl salicylate in it, which is a slightly different filter. Octocrylene covers UVB, ethyl salicylate covers UVB, but they're able to swap out that filter, and I think it's just that single swap in filter that makes the new Shaka Fluid sting a little bit less. So one of the complaints about the older formulation, the Anthelios XL, I experienced this myself, it does sting around the eyes. You get a little bit of burning sensation with it. I've also had that experience with the Bioderma sunscreens, and never really any from Ultrasun. Those seem to be a little different, so I'll have to go back and really look carefully at the ingredients on those. But yeah, the older Anthelios XL sold in the European market. Not sure if this is still available to you guys. Comment below, and if it is, it seems as though this has been replaced by the Shaka Fluid. But that one had a different UVB filter in it, and as a result, the newer formulation seems to be that switch makes this sting a little, makes this not sting around the eyes. So this is, you can wear it comfortably on the face. This, like the older one, is fragrance free. This sunscreen, the Shaka Fluid, wears phenomenally. It has a nice matte finish. It's not oily, it's not greasy, it's not heavy, it's not drying. And that brings me to my next point. You will see alcohol listed as an ingredient in this, alcohol denaturant. I think it's like the second ingredient in this, and everybody always shakes, is shaking in their boots when they see alcohol. They think that like the sky is falling. Alcohol denaturant is not the devil. Its shortcomings are it can be drying, it can increase transepidermal water loss out of the skin, it can sting, and it can increase absorption of active ingredients. It's a penetration enhancer. But it's very important in sunscreen formulations because it helps in terms of dissolving and stabilizing these filters. So it's frequently in a lot of chemical sunscreens. It's not bad, and so long as the manufacturer approaches the vehicle as a whole, bearing that in mind, and puts in appropriate skin conditioning agents, then that is offset. And I'll just put a little on my skin here so you guys can see, but it has 0 cast. So if you are a darker skin type, this is not going to be a problem for you. You do want to shake these pretty liberally, and I'm a little overzealous. I spend a lot of time shaking them because they do separate out a little bit. Some of the filters will sell out a little bit. And the more you shake, the more homogeneous of a fluid it's going to come out of this. If you don't shake this, you might get a little bit of settling. The product may settle a little bit, and you won't get a good homogeneous distribution of those filters. But I absolutely love the packaging on this type of sunscreen. The ones in the States, the liquid vehicles, are the same because you can just kind of drop it onto your face directly. And you can see it's just a nice sheer liquid. I mean, do you see how that's nice and matte? It's not greasy, but it's not drying. Like you can see, there's still some luminosity to my skin over here. It's hydrated. This, just let it dry on there, and it's a perfect base for your makeup. This does not sting whatsoever. You definitely can give this a whirl around the eyes. I don't have enough experience in people outside of me using this because it's not available here, but this is much easier to tolerate around the eyes. So I think that change in the filter was really important. But you can see, I mean, it's not, here, we'll just put it on the other cheek. And it has really good spread. The liquid vehicles, they spread out onto the skin really well, and don't require a lot of effort to get a good, even monolayer. They're just a lot easier to spread out on the skin. I have no clue how much it costs. For those of you in the UK. I know that the older formulation was about 16 or 17 pounds. I'm not sure if I'm correct on that though. That's just what I've seen it for online. But I'm not sure how much the newer one is. I think some of you have said it's really expensive. I always get questions about expiration dates. This has a 12-month from opening expiration date. Don't use expired sunscreens. The inactive ingredients, stuff like some of the alcohol, may evaporate and you may start to lose efficacy of those active ingredients. So just use it within a year of opening it and replace it thereafter. I mean, this shouldn't last you a year. This should, you should be reapplying this and using this consistently enough that its expiration date is not an issue. Also, I always get questions about people leaving the sunscreen out in a hot car, like getting to really hot temperatures. I wouldn't use it in those situations either. So keep it with you. Don't leave it out in the car, and make sure you use it up by its expiration date. Really like it. But if you're an American, you want to be able to walk into Target or Walmart and buy a sunscreen from La Roche Posay that performs similarly as far as giving you a matte finish, giving you somewhat decent UV protection, although it's not going to be as good as the European counterparts. I would tell you to go with my personal favorite, one I've been wearing a fair amount lately and really like, is the one that I reviewed for you in my high protection mineral sunscreen video. It is the La Roche Posay Anthelios 50 mineral sunscreen. This contains zinc and titanium dioxide, so it's a mineral sunscreen. This does have a cast, but be patient with this. Trust me on this one. Be patient because the cast on this does fade pretty readily. So this is going to give you pretty good UVB and UVA coverage. But it's not as good as, while I can't compare one versus the other really objectively, I can tell you it's not as good of UVA coverage as the European ones because this uses nano-sized particles, and those are fine, but you start to lose a little bit of the broader wavelengths of UVA with that. And this has a very minimal cast to it, so that kind of tells me that it's probably less. Strengths in terms of UVA are probably much less than what you would get, or definitely much less than what you would get from the chemical sunscreens in Europe. The chemical sunscreen in the States that La Roche Posay sells, they've got tons, and I reviewed several of them for you, but here's one, their ultralight sunscreen fluid Anthelios 60. This has just avobenzone in it, which will cover UVA1 and UVA2, but it degrades upon exposure to UV, so you don't have great insurance. You don't have the backup UVA filters in there, compensating and also stabilizing avobenzone. You just don't have those. The Cellox Shield is kind of La Roche Posay's proprietary technology. I can't explain all of the details, but that theoretically helps stabilize avobenzone. And I've got to tell you, I do have a lot more confidence with sunscreens from like La Roche Posay and Neutrogena that contain avobenzone in comparison to others because they do put in a lot of R&D into the stabilization of that avobenzone through different technologies. But to be frank, there is no objective comparing different sunscreens. It's really just kind of my suspicion. So, this is a great option if you want a matte finish sunscreen that has zero cast. Unlike the mineral one that I showed, this is chemical, so it's not going to have any cast, and it leaves a nice matte finish. La Roche Posay also makes a liquid sunscreen like that is mineral and tinted. I don't recommend that tinted mineral sunscreen. I'll list it down below for you guys, but I don't recommend it, so I'll put in parentheses, don't recommend. That one is just titanium dioxide. And titanium dioxide on its own doesn't do very well into broader wavelengths of UVA like zinc. So it's less good than the non-tinted one, I would say. But, you know, we don't have, this is the hard thing about American sunscreens. I really couldn't say, I can't tell you that 100%. That, you know, I can't say that's 100% a truth, because there's no comparing the two. They just are met with a pass-fail. So one is they both pass, but you don't know, like, you know, if pass is 70%, did the tinted one get a 71 on the test and the non-tinted one get a 99? You know, you probably want the one that got a 99, but you're never going to know that. They're just not evaluated that way. It's a pass-fail system. So I can't really tell you objectively. Merely my suspicion is that the tinted one offers less. They both offer that nice matte finish though. The mineral one does leave a cast, but trust me, the cast on that one is really good in terms of fading down. Of all of the high protection mineral sunscreens, it does fade down. All right, one last thing though. Whenever I review a brand, a L'Oreal brand or a brand that is not cruelty-free, people always comment like, oh, like I can't use this. I only use cruelty-free brands. And if you're new here and this is your first video, do know that I do review a lot of cruelty-free brands: Attitude, Altruist, Simply Pure, Paula's Choice, Bianca Yule. I have many cruelty-free brands out there. And one brand that I've reviewed for you guys, some of their products in the past, is Crave Beauty. So if you're looking for a cruelty-free product that offers many of the same benefits as the Roche Posay Anthelios Shaka Fluid, I would recommend, if you are here in the States, I would recommend the Beet Shield. The Beet Shield is Crave Beauty's antioxidant day fluid, they have to call it. This product is identical to the Beet the Sun sunscreen that Crave Beauty makes and is sold in the Korean market and a variety of other, I think you can buy it in Europe as well. And it's a twitchy thing because this is the exact same product as that sunscreen that I reviewed for you guys a while ago. Has a nice matte finish, really phenomenal filters, doesn't sting. I mean, I'll link the video down below so I'm not repeating myself here. But since I made that video, they brought the product to the US market with the identical, and with that, the ingredients are identical. But because of the way sunscreens are regulated and the ingredients that are approved for use in sunscreens everywhere else but the States, because those ingredients aren't approved for inclusion in sunscreens, they can't call it a sunscreen. They can't make any statements on the label of this product's ability to protect you from a burn or it being broad spectrum or any of that. But you know, what can I say? It's met criteria in other countries for being a phenomenal broad spectrum sunscreen, and those other countries and those other standards are much stricter than what we have here in the States, and this has phenomenal filters. So this non-sunscreen product offers many of the same benefits that the Shaka Fluid from La Roche Posay does, and it is cruelty-free. And also, it's nice because it's sold in the American market. And I point that out because for a lot of people, you know, it's nice. I've got these generous viewers who send me these products from all over the world. I'm able to buy them with my own money from Amazon UK and get them. But for a lot of you, that is just that's not really practical. There's substantial, you know, tax associated with that, duties. Yeah, but this product, this non-sunscreen product, has Uvinol A+ in it, which gives you UVA1 and UVA2 and is a heck of a lot more stable than avobenzone. It has bimotrizonol, which also goes by the name Tinosorb S, that gives you UVB, UVA1, and UVA2. And it also has ethyl hexyl triazine. This is really going to give you broad spectrum coverage. You just can't say that on the label. So yeah, it offers many of the same benefits, some different filters, but much, you know, getting into that broad coverage. It's $20 on their site, so I'll list it down below. It's not an affiliate link or anything like that. But yeah, it's a great option. My mom wears it. It's not drying, and she really loves it. So yeah. And she wears makeup, so she wears foundation daily, like light foundation. And this doesn't have any issue with the foundation. So that's an alternative to the La Roche Posay ones if you want one that is cruelty free. And it's also an alternative if you want some better filters in a product that you're putting on your face than what is sold in our sunscreens here in the States. You can buy this one. But you know, it can't make any statements about its ability to protect you from a burn or from UV. But in summary, the new Shaka Fluid, thank you so much for sending it to me, performs great, has an advantage over the older Anthelios XL formulation, maybe from the switch and the filter, in that it doesn't sting as much around the eyes. It has a very nice matte finish, and I think many of you might feel as though the matte finish is better than the older formulation. It's very breathable, it wears very comfortably. I think you guys are really gonna like it, and I'm not sure the cost, but it's definitely an upgrade in my experience from the prior Roche Posay formulation, just from the stinging, as well as some of the Bioderma sunscreens. I feel like this one is nicer. It's not as greasy, and it's more comfortable to wear than those. So, you know, see what's in your budget. Those are fantastic options and wear pretty nicely. It's kind of a subtle difference that that subtle difference though for somebody else might be a huge difference and be the determining factor in your compliance. So, you know, I definitely think it's worth getting and trying and seeing how you like it. It's great. So I hope this video was helpful to you guys. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.